Hi, 7th grade. This is a Tuesday, Thursday class. So I'm giving you some notes. So please have this all prepared, everything by Thursday when you come to see me. We're going to use Scoreboard again, nothing different, except for now what we are going to do is we're going to add decimals and we're going to add fractions, okay, with like denominators. We're going to save this for Thursday when you come to me, okay? All right, so when you have, remember integers, remember that the Scoreboard strategy was simply, actually, I apologize, turn to the side that's adding rational numbers, okay? And what we're going to do, if you notice, integers, I want you to complete these on your own. We have already done the lesson for that. And we today are going to work on adding decimals. And the most important thing about adding decimals is you must line up your decimals, okay? And it's extremely important because you're putting the place values in line. Okay, so the same strategy applies. We're going to box from the back all the way to the next number. Okay? And we know that if we're adding a negative, we have two different signs in the same box. I'm going to say the sign, which is a negative, and I have a negative here. So really what I'm doing in Scoreboard, I have my negatives and I have my positives. I'm going to line up those numbers. And the 3 and 5/10. Now you notice I have no positives. So what did I end up doing? I'm actually adding the two negatives, right? I'm adding the total absolute value, the distance from 0, and the winner's going to get the sign. Okay, so we know that our answer is going to be negative, and I'm going to add that column. So 7 and 5 is 12. I'm going to carry my 1. 1 and 3 is 4. I'm going to bring down that decimal, and I'm going to add that 1. So my answer is negative 14 and 2/10. And always get in the habit, always box your answers. Okay, looking at the next one. We are going to box from the back. Okay, I'm going to say the sign. If I have this two different signs in the same box, it's always going to be negative. If I have no sign, it's always positive. I place it in Scoreboard. 7 and 1/10 goes in the negatives. 7 and 6/10 goes in the positives. So who wins? That's right. Think of money. If you had $7.60 or $7.10, who has more? The positives here. So we are actually going to subtract now, right? The winner is going to subtract the loser. So 6 minus 1 is 5 and 0. So my answer is 5/10. And I know some of you did it in your head, and you may find that this takes another step, but I'm trying to provide you a strategy that you can always go to if you get stuck. So I want you to do this one by yourself. Now, basically, I'm going very, very quickly. You learned in 4th and 5th grade doing decimals and fractions. And so this is all it is a review, okay? Now, when you have adding fractions with like denominators, you add, remember, you only add the top, okay? The numerator, sorry. The denominator always stays the same. But when you're working with integers, we need to still put it in Scoreboard. We have two negatives, okay? Same thing. We have two different signs. That is a negative. And if it only has one sign, you give it that sign, okay? So what that means is I have two negatives. And so what's going to happen? 6/11, and I have 5/11. So what do I do in a column? That's right. I'm going to actually add those two numbers. And what does that equal? 6 and 5 is 11/11, and I can actually simplify that to 1. Okay? So please, 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 always follow the Scoreboard strategy and you won't go wrong. Okay? I want to save the mixed numbers for another day. Okay? I don't want to do that today. So we're going to skip that. What I want you to do is box from the back. You have a positive and you have a negative. And when you place in Scoreboard, the positive is 3/5. The negative is 4/5. Who wins? That's right, the negative. So we are going to end up subtracting. So 4/5 minus 3/5. The denominator stays the same when we are adding and subtracting. 4 minus 3 is 1/5. Who gets the sign? The negatives. Okay? All right, on the back. Same thing applies. There's really nothing different. All you're doing is you are saying the sign. If you only have one sign, you choose that. It's negative, negative. That's right. I am actually going to end up, I apologize, I'm reverting back to decimals. The difference on the back is when you're subtracting. If you notice on the front side, we were adding. Now, remember that when you're subtracting, it is simply the same thing as adding the opposite. If you find that easier, then do it. Now, if you have two negatives, that's right, you are going to end up adding them, and your winner would get the sign, okay? So go ahead and finish that. And I'm going to end up posting the answers on Schoology, but I do want you to finish the whole page. This is something as a review, spiraling back, and then I want you to complete these, and I want to set these up for you. Okay, we're going to box from the back, and when you are subtracting a negative, we have the same sign in the same box, right, ladies? When we take away that negativity of behavior, it ends up being a positive, right? We talked about that as an analogy. If there is no sign, it is always positive. Now, in our scoreboard, we would set it up as 7 6/10. Make sure that you line up your decimals, and you would add the column, and our answer would be positive. Remember, on a video, you can always pause it and catch up. And the same thing applies here, okay? Nothing different when we have like denominators, okay? Always box from the back, place in scoreboard. They're both negative. So that's right, I'm going to end up adding those two fractions. So 6/5 plus 5/11, I'm sorry, sorry about that. 11/11, but what's the difference here? That's right, the negatives, okay, if you notice on the other side, what did I do wrong? That's right, I didn't give the negative its sign, did I? Sorry, I'm not paying attention to my iPad. So I did, I messed up, I forgot to give it the sign. So if you notice, even though I'm adding a negative here, there is nothing different from what I'm doing here, because when you subtract, it's the same thing as adding the opposite, okay? All right, so 11/11 equals a -1, okay? All right, so I want you to skip this one. Don't cross it out, because we will go back to that, okay? Tomorrow when you come, we're going to work with unlike denominators as a review, as well as mixed numbers, okay? The last thing that I want you to do is I want to go through one of these problems. The way you will be tested in 7th grade for number operations is in a word problem. And we're going to talk about the strategies of what we're going to do. So we always want to circle important information. Okay, what do you know? So if Jonathan borrowed $800 from his grandparents to start a lawn mowing business in his neighborhood, so the $800 is important. I'm going to circle that or box it. After mowing lawns for a month and paying his expenses, he was able to pay them $188.56. How much does Jonathan still owe his grandparents? Okay, so we can do this one of two ways. I can create the -800, but we know all we're looking for is a value. So we know that you borrow $800, okay, and you paid back $188.56. I need to know how much does he still owe? okay? So the 800, that's right, I'm going to subtract it, right? I'm not going to add it to his debt. I'm going to subtract it because I only owe 800. So I'm going to subtract 188 and 56 cents. Now you notice I lined that up. I didn't put the 6 here because I can add a decimal, and now I'm going to subtract, okay? Obviously, there's a lot of work here. I'm going to have to borrow all the way to my my hundredths. So I'm going to make that a 7. And I know when I have this many zeros, I'm going to end up borrowing again, so it becomes a 9, a 9, a 9, and then a 10. All right, so 10 minus 6 is going to be 4. 4, bring down my decimal. 9 minus 8 is 1. 9 minus 8 is 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. Now, what is a way I could justify my answer? I could. I could actually add these two numbers back to make sure that they equal 800. And I start to look at it as I know that, especially when it's all these zeros, that all these need to add up to 9, because I know this adds up to 10, which will make everything round up, okay? So another way that you can justify your answer. So what that means is he, what's his name? Jonathan owes $611.44. Okay? And I want you to finish this by tomorrow, okay? So what you're going to do, today's date is 8/28, and you're going to use Scoreboard, and that's just an asterisk, meaning that we're going to use the Scoreboard strategy, and you are going to add, subtract, decimals, and fractions. Okay, and I am on page, and we are going to do something a little bit different. We are actually going to make a pocket. Okay, so I am on page 7. Page 7. Okay, and sometimes I like to leave blank pages, and the reason is because I might be doing a pocket. So 7. Actually, we're going to make this a 7. Okay, look at what I did. I put a 7 here, but I'm going to end up folding this down and gluing. Okay, so the next page will be a 7. Okay, when you make a pocket, you are going to, on this page, the first 7, I'm going to fold it down. I'm going to turn the page and then fold it against that crease. Okay, I will do that again. So when you're making a pocket, you're going to turn the page you want to fold over, take your left-hand corner and fold it down against the spiral. Okay? And then we are going to glue it. We're going to glue that on the bottom here and right here. Remember, a little glue goes a long way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this right here. I'm going to put that in there. You can stop this video at any time if I'm going way too fast. Okay? And we are going to add and subtract decimals and fractions. All right. Remember that the key here was the strategy was to line up the decimal. Very, very important. Fractions, okay, denominator, must be the same and does not change. Okay, only the numerator when we're adding and subtracting fractions. But even though I know a lot of you are trying to do it in your head, use Scoreboard. Okay, especially if you struggle with this. Okay. All right. You know what you need to do? I will see you tomorrow.